Is this thing on? So this will be my penultimate video on the Christian ethics series. This one is sort of the follow-up to the previous, which was without God is there truth. This one, without God, is there love. Now, again, I'm sort of going off of sort of critiquing a utilitarian ethic that describes what is right as the maximal good, the maximal amount of good that you can produce. The problem with that is there's less consideration for individual circumstances. But the other issue is if it's just a numbers game, if it's just about numbers, then does it actually mean love? Goodness. Does goodness and love, are they compatible without sort of a transcendent value? A higher meaning, a higher purpose, a sort of a hierarchy of what good produces. So if we are going to say it's a mathematical equation, are we going to attribute the same mathematical scores to various behaviors? And the reason why it relates to love is because with love, what you're doing is you're placing your own wants, your own desires behind the desires, the wants of somebody else as it relates to you. That's what love is to me. Love is sort of an analysis in a certain circumstance where you're placing the needs and wants of others ahead of your own, or at least establishing a bond where they enter into the equation more heavily, as opposed to saying a sort of just a liking where you are basically the same in terms of your wants and desires, and then a disliking where you want your wants and desires more than you want that other person to succeed. So, without a transcendence, without sort of purpose in a bond, does the bond truly produce the end result of valuing somebody's wants and desires ahead, or at least on equal footing? You could argue yes, at least the equal footing part, but that I'm going to call it liking and not love. So putting the other person's wants and desires ahead, or the other being's wants and desires ahead of yourself, is necessary for love. In my view, you could try and argue otherwise, but in my view, you do need to place their wants and desires ahead of your own more than 50% of the time. More than 50% of the time. Less doesn't necessarily need to be 100% of the time, but definitely needs to be more than 50% of the time. That sort of is my estimation of what love means. And if you are doing so, why are you doing so? Because if we're subscribing sort of to the utilitarian view, perhaps it's because you could earn more over time. Perhaps it's because the relationship is valuable monetarily, or whatever numeric reason for it. But is it truly love? Is it just liking or love? And I think you do need some form of transcendence. It doesn't necessarily have to be an omnipotent being. in order to truly love someone, you need a transcendent purpose in order to be able to love. And that doesn't necessarily have to be God, but for a large portion of the population it is. But it doesn't have to be. But what would transcendence look like without sort of a faith in a higher power? It'd be a faith within a certain ethic that places both moral agency on humans, but also does not. So it places moral agency on humans, so free will. Sort of people who argue that there are systemic problems that limit people's moral agency. Are you arguing, is it limiting to the point of that they have no control over their actions and their behaviors? And that's sort of a separate topic, but it could fall into the cognition series, which will be a future series. So a transcendence requires moral agency, and then transcendence also requires wanting to serve beyond what is yours. So it's anti-solipsistic. So moral agency plus anti-solipsism. So solipsism, I think, therefore I am the only being I know. That is sort of what solipsism means. Sort of acting solipsistic, narcissistic, meaning the only person that you want to serve is yourself. So a transcendence without sort of a belief in a higher being means you want to serve others, whether it be other beings, other systems, others, and you have moral agency and free will. I think those are the necessary conditions for transcendence. You need moral agency and anti-solipsism. God provides that anti-solipsism. And also God provides, depending on sort of what theological beliefs that you have, provides the moral agency as well. So you need moral agency and you need anti-solipsism. The reason why it relates to love, well, you can't really love if you're not free to do so. You can't really love if you only think of yourself. You can't truly love yourself, at least if you are anti-solipsistic. If you are solipsistic, then yeah, you can love yourself. It's fundamentally the only thing you can love in solipsism. So yeah, it's you got to be anti-solipsistic. You got to have moral agency to be able to love. And the reason why I ask, without love, without God, is there love? And without love, is there God? That could be a question. I mean, the thing is that with moral agency, it also comes the risk of evil. Evil is sort of the consequence of moral agency, because it allows the choice of doing wrong things. And so without love, is there God? Yeah, because moral agency exists. This fundamentally comes down to, what do you believe? And ethics, particularly Christian ethics, is an interesting path to explore within ethics, but personally, I prefer sort of the empirical study, the empirical processes of understanding why people do what they do, why people want things. And that's the next series, which will be Desire, but there's going to be one more video, which will be another C.S. Lewis book review for the next video. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one.